Healing the sick, still raising the dead, still opening blinded eyes. He still provides, still working miracles, just like before. God is still doing what God does. God is still doing what God does.
Still healing the sick.
Still raising the dead.
Still raising the dead.
Still opening blinded eyes. Oh,
He still provides.
oh my Lord,
Still working miracles.
just like before.
Like before.
Oh my Lord, God is still
Doing
what God does. Oh,
God is still doing
what God does.
God does.
Still healing the sick, still raising the dead, still opening blinded eyes. He still provides, still working miracles, just like before. My God is still doing what God does. God is still doing what God does.
Still healing the sick.
Still healing the sick.
Still raising the dead.
Oh,
Opening blinded eyes.
my God provides. Yes, He does.
Still working miracles.
Just like before.
Like before.
My God is still doing
What God
oh,
does. Still doing
what God does.
God does.
Oh, He's still making a way out of no way. He still heals and answers prayer. Oh my Lord, He's still breaking chains, setting the captives free. He's still doing what only He can do. Can't nobody do what God can. Still healing the sick, still raising the dead, still opening blinded eyes. He still provides, Lord, still working miracles.
Just like before.
Oh no, my God is still doing
What God does.
nobody do you like me, Jesus.
God is still doing
Oh,
what God does.
He's still making a way out of no way.
Out of no way.
He still heals and answers prayer. Oh my Lord, He's still setting the He's still doing what only He can do. Can't nobody do what God can. Still healing the sick, still raising the dead, still opening blinded eyes. He still provides. My God.
what God does.
My God is still what God does.
What God does.
Nobody do it like Jesus.
God still doing.
My God is still doing. God is still doing what God does. Yeah. God is still doing what God does. Still making a way. Still opening blind eyes. Oh, but God is still doing what God does.
God is still doing what God does. This is a day the Lord hath made, and we should rejoice and be glad in it. We come into this place to worship Him and be thankful unto Him. I want to revisit an Old Testament story. Brought a Bible, it's found in the book of Numbers, the 13th chapter. And the New Century Version translation is the one selected for this presentation, beginning with verse 26. They came back to Moses and Aaron and all the Israelites at Kadesh in the desert of Paran. The men reported to them and showed everybody the fruit from the land. They told Moses, "We went to the land where you sent us, and it is a fertile land. Here is some of its fruit. But the people who live there are strong. Their cities are walled and very large. We even saw some Anakites there. The Amalekites live in the southern region. The Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites live in the mountains. And the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan River." Then Caleb told the people near Moses to be quiet. And he said, "We should certainly go up and take the land for ourselves. We can certainly do it." But the men who had gone with him said, "We can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are." And those men gave the Israelites a bad report about the land they explored, saying, "The land that we explored is too large to conquer. All the people we saw are very tall. We saw the Nephilim people there. The Anakites come from the Nephilim people. We felt like grasshoppers, and we looked like grasshoppers to them." Amen. This is my Bible, God's holy word. It is a lamp unto my feet and light unto my path. The grass withers, the flowers fade, but the word of our God shall stand forever. This is my Bible. This is my weapon, the sword of the Spirit. Amen. I've shared this message some years ago. I wanted to revisit it. It's entitled, "When Decisions Determine Destiny." When decisions determine destiny. You know, when you first read the beginning verses of this chapter, it sounds like God is setting Israel up for failure. In verses 1 through 3, it says so. So the Lord said to Moses, "Send men to explore the land of Canaan, which I will give to the Israelites. Send one leader from each tribe." And so Moses obeyed the Lord's command and sent the Israelites out from the desert Paran. God in his omniscience, he already knew the condition of the land and the people who inhabited that land as well as their stature. This strange land and these strange people whose appearance alone was intimidating was of such that they would unnerve even the best believer. So one cannot help but ask, well, then whose idea was it? And why would God send these people on this reconnaissance mission? Those are relevant questions that one would raise, but the truth of the matter is that the spying out of the land was not God's idea nor his intent. It was Israel who decided that they needed to survey the land. They are the ones who decided against the advice of their leader that a full investigation was necessary before they would or could move beyond the place that they were. It was the people that even thought that although Moses had shared with them the promises of God, that this was the land that he would give them, they needed to see it for themselves. The first verse of the 13th chapter is misleading because it says that it was God's idea. However, if we go to the Deuteronomy account in verse 19 and 22 of the first chapter of Deuteronomy, it reads like this. Moses is speaking. It said, then as the Lord our God commanded us, in the narrative he says, we left Mount Sinai and we went toward the mountain country of the Amorite people. We went through that large and terrible desert you saw, and then we came to Kadesh Barnea. So Moses is giving this recapture. He said, I said to you, you have now come to the mountain country of the Amorites, to the land the Lord our God will give us. Verse 21, Moses said, look, here it is. Go up and take it. The Lord, the God of your ancestors, told you to do this, so don't be afraid and don't worry. Here it is, verse 22. Then all of you came to me and said, let's send men out before us to spy out the land. And they can come back and tell us about the way we should go and the cities that we will find. So God is leading his people to the land he had promised, but it is obvious that the people of God lacked the faith to take possession of what was being given them. Their request to send spies was actually a demonstration of unbelief and a lack of faith on their part. Remember, God was the one who was leading them. He was the one who was leading them to the land of promise. He had already spied out the land. And so there was no need for them to check behind God. For they apparently never stopped to ask themselves the question, why would God send us into this land if he had not already prepared it for our conquest and possession? But clearly this was a lack of faith on Israel's part, so they desired of Moses that he would authorize human verification for a divine declaration. So, as we read in our text, Moses obliges them, and the results of their mission became divisive as opposed to unifying. Hear me good. 12 spies were sent out, one from each tribe, on this exploration mission that took 40 days. And after the 40th day, they returned to camp and they gave their report. They had traveled the land from its southernmost borders all the way to the northern tip at Beth Rehob. Time and attention. They were meticulous in their reconnaissance for time and attention to detail as well as them gathering some physical evidence, the fruit that they had brought back was included in the report of these 12 spies. They gave a factual report. That they did. They gave a factual report that could not be denied nor disputed. Listen to what they say. In verses 27 and 28, they're talking to Moses. They said, we went to the land where you sent us. I'm back in the Numbers chapter book. We went to the land where you sent us, and it is a fertile land. Here's some of its fruit. But, verse 28, but the people who live there are strong. Their cities are walled and very large. We even saw some Anakites there. Now, this is their response, their report. Now, we must note that everything they said is true. Their report confirmed everything God had said about the land, and it's plenty. Their report was an actual confirmation of what God had already said. God said that it was a land flowing with milk and honey. That's a fact. God said there were walled cities. That's a fact. There were giants in the land. That's a fact. So where and when did their report become problematic? That's what you want to know? Well, the problem was not in the facts. The problem was in the misinterpretation of the facts. Verses 31 through 33, same book, Numbers 13. They said, we can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are. And those men gave the Israelites a bad report about the land they explored, saying, the land that we explored is too large to conquer. And all the people we saw are very tall. And we saw the Nephilim people there. The Anakites come from the Nephilim people. We felt like grasshoppers, and we looked like grasshoppers to them. Listen, church, when you are afraid, and when you have lost both your faith and sight of God, your challenges, your difficulties, your obstacles will automatically be magnified. See, when you're afraid and you've lost your faith, God becomes eclipsed by your troubles. And I said to you before, fear and faith cannot reside in the same house. Fear and faith cannot coexist in the same heart. 10 of the 12 spies saw their challenges and difficulties without God. However, 2 spies, Joshua and Caleb, saw their challenge and difficulties with God. Are you listening to me? Interestingly was the comparison that the doubters used in their report. Listen what they said, giants and grasshoppers. Now you notice how doubt and fear can blind you. Here they were using these G words, giants, grasshopper, and forgot the biggest G word, God. Are you listening to me? But I can understand how they perhaps could have forgotten some of the names of God. Yeah, maybe they forgot some of the names. While in the midst of this strange and intimidating land, maybe they forgot the name El for God, or El Shaddai. Maybe they forgot the Elyon. Maybe they forgot that name, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Shammah, Jehovah Shalom. Maybe they forgot those names. However, what's strange here is they forgot the name God while they were dealing with all those other G words, grasshoppers and giants. And it seems rational to assume that God would come to mind. But I find it amazing the impact that fear has upon faith. Their majority report was followed by a minority report. Joshua and Caleb. 10 said, we can't do it. The land has grasshoppers and giants. These 2 men, Joshua and Caleb, they argued that the conquest was certain. They said we can do it. They believed that victory, listen, Joshua and Caleb, they believed that victory had already been validated in the promise. If only the people had listened to the minority report, they would have shared a much different future. Too often we make the mistake of buying into what everybody is saying about matters of life. And notice, just because everybody's saying something, that in and of itself does not make it right nor true. Come on, come here. See, you got to be careful when facing difficulties and challenges and oppositions and obstacles in your life, that you do not seek out people who will only co-sign your doubt and co-sign your fear. See, in those times, you need some Joshuas and you need some Calebs who, after reviewing all of the facts, I don't care how unnerving and how uncertain and even intimidating the facts are, you need a Joshua and Caleb who said, we can do this thing. We can do it. Remember, your decisions determine your destiny. Unfortunately, in this situation, the decision made by the multitude influenced the negative report of everybody, and it determined for them a destiny that was not in accord to what God had planned, purposed, and willed for their lives. As Israel grappled with fear and faith, they unfortunately allowed, first thing, their circumstances to cause them to make wrong decisions. Walled cities and giants gave God's people a grasshopper complex. What's a grasshopper complex? Well, we got to answer the question, what's a complex? And the psychological definition of a complex is a group of related or repressed ideas and impulses that compel characteristics or habitual patterns of thoughts and feelings and behaviors. So here's Israel, after viewing the land and the inhabitants, experiencing this grasshopper complex. Listen to what they said again, verse 33. We saw the Nephilim people there, the Anakites coming from the Nephilim people. We felt like grasshoppers, and we looked like grasshoppers to them. They traveled that land for 40 days, covering approximately a 500-mile round trip. And I can imagine they were rehearsing. They were rehearsing these thoughts. We felt like grasshoppers. We looked like grasshoppers. We felt like grasshoppers. We looked like grasshoppers. Didn't we look like grasshoppers? See, this grasshopper thing is a handle that they self-imposed. Nobody had called them a grasshopper. They didn't talk to anybody, and the person they were talking to said, you look like a grasshopper. Nobody had assigned that to them. It was a self-assigned. It was a handle that they had. It was self-imposed, right? It became an inadequate label. It became a label of defeat. It was a defeatist attitude, an attitude that they had self-assigned. Day after day, as they traveled the land, the reality of the magnitude of the land increased, while faith in the might of God decreased. Verse 32, listen to what they said to support that. They said, the land we conquered is too large. The land we explored, rather, is too large to conquer. All the people we saw were very tall. Now, they may have tried to even shake it off. But according to psychology, they undoubtedly repressed it until it became a complex. Remember, the definition of a complex is repressed ideas and impulses that compel characteristics or habitual patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. The more they internalize, listen, the more they internalize the challenge, the problem, the more they internalize the opposition and the difficulty, the more they felt small. The more they internalized it, the more they felt insignificant. The more they internalized it, the more they felt powerless. The more they internalized their obstacles, their difficulties, their challenges, they became frustrated. Why? They felt this way because they looked at God in light of their circumstances instead of their possibilities. And we do the same thing. A situation, a problem arises in our lives, and the first thing we say is, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do now. Stay close. When the challenge comes, when the difficulty comes, Lord, I don't know. We like Sanford. We ready to call it in. When the challenge comes, when the difficulty comes, first thing we start talking about is that, Lord, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. We say that as opposed to saying, well, Lord, I guess you're going to show up in this situation and prove to me again that you're a promise keeper and that you're greater than any giant that I might face in my life.